What's going on, everybody? It's your boy C-Zar, and the purpose of this video is to discuss the price action of Bitcoin, where I think it's going over the coming days, over the coming weeks, and there's a pattern in the charts that we've already done this cycle, that we've already seen. It's already happened, it's come into fruition, and we've seen the aftermath that happens after this pattern, and I'm pointing to the upwards because it does go to the upside, you guys. If that sounds good to you, hit the like button, subscribe if you want to see more content like this, and let's get into it, right? I know a really big question that people are asking, and it's a question that I ask myself every single day when I look at this chart, is when are we going to find our low? Are we at the low? Does it go lower, right? And that, hopefully we can answer that in this video. I do want to say first and foremost, as I do basically at any one of these given lows, that the possibility that is our low, it's very strong. It very well could be our low. And if it's not our low, then likely it's very near where our low would be, okay? But I think that has every prospect to be our low, every reason to believe that it is our low. I want to go over what this pattern is and where we've seen it before in this cycle, literally in this cycle so far. So let's do that. It might be more obvious on a weekly time frame, and I want to just jump straight to the point. I want to compare this exact thing that we're doing here, move up and all, to this exact thing that we did back here, move up and all, right? We just didn't have the aftermath afterwards, right? And I want to identify this because, of course, it's obvious. It looks pretty similar just from this perspective on a weekly, where you moved up. You know, you've got your little fake out high here. You consolidated for a long time, and then you moved up again, right? You've moved up here, and you've got your little ball. But it's easy to say that this part here looks very similar to this part here. But who's to say that we're going to go up? I don't know. You know, let's analyze this. Let's take a deeper dive than just looking at it and saying, hey, they look close enough. Might as well give it the upside. Let's take a deeper dive. Let's look at the daily time frame. Okay. So daily time frame here. The place that we're identifying, again, on a weekly time frame, it was here. It looks a little bit different on a weekly, but on a daily time frame, here we are. I want to just take you through a little tour of this consolidation phase, okay? So here in the consolidation phase, what we were not in the overbought zone really for most of this. We were being held down by it, rejected by it. When we found our low, we did not get oversold on the daily, but we got very close to it, very, very close to it. And we knew we found our low because not only did we bounce off the oversold zone, but we broke above the 50 area here on the RSI, which is a good thing, right? When you're above the 50, it's good. You're below the 50, it's bad, right? We can look at that. We can observe that in the charts. Above the 50, good, or at least decent. You're moving up. Below the 50, bad. That's when you started to move down, okay? It's not always that cut and dry. Don't think that you hear those words and now you can do technical analysis just by understanding if it's above the 50, it's good. If it's below the 50, it's bad. It's not that cut and dry, but for all intents and purposes, it kind of is for this perspective, right? You can just observe the differences in the behavioral patterns of the chart itself when you're above and below the 50 in culmination with other things, okay? Once you got above the 50 here, not only were you above the 50, but you were also at the limits of this kind of downtrend in your RSI, right? Lower highs, lower lows. So you were above the 50, looking to break out of this trend, and you did break the trend. You broke above your 50, you broke above your trend, and that got you on to your next phase up, right? So first and foremost, whenever you did break down, whenever you got in your RSI and you broke down, not into your oversold zone, but very close to it, right? You had lows here that you held. You held once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, and then you broke through it oh so slightly, and then you moved on up. This drop, by the way, overall, from a high to a low, was 21%. 21%, and essentially from this line here, you were down about 4%, 5% from that line. Maybe a little bit more than that. I don't know. What would be probably there? 5%, 5.2% away from that line, okay? Last but not least, the timing. The timing of this line, okay? From the beginning here, when you started to consolidate, not from the high, but from when you started to consolidate, I personally would consider this whole range a consolidation phase, right? It wasn't here and then you had to move up and then you had a consolidation down. It wasn't like that, right? It's a whole consolidation phase in itself. So taking it from the beginning to when we were moving out of it, not to when we broke above this high, but when we were breaking out of the consolidation phase. I think it's obvious that it was right there. That was 64 days. Now here's where shit gets interesting, you guys. We've analyzed this thing that who cares? It's already on the chart. It's already there. Who cares? Now we're going to carry it over. We're going to carry it over and see if some people care. Because also, one last thing I failed to mention, actually, we were in an uptrend in the daily RSI, a nice uptrend. And you can guess when that uptrend ended. Yes, it ended right when, essentially, we broke out of it right here. I guess it technically ended, we started forming a downtrend because we had lower lows and lower highs. It technically would have ended here. I don't know. All right, never mind. It didn't end at the beginning of the consolidation phase, but pretty close. Once we broke out of it, we had one more move up and then went into the consolidation phase. Try to remember all that, okay? Let's go forward over here. Now, they don't look the exact same, but you started consolidating debatably sometime over here, if not sometime right here at this high. Maybe you started consolidating over here, however it was. And then again, if you started consolidating here, look at where your high was. It was basically in the middle of this pattern, or if you started consolidating over here, it's in like the second or the last like third of this pattern. Whenever you got your high here, it wasn't necessarily in the middle of this pattern, but pretty damn close, right? If you broke out over here, if you started over here, that's basically right in the middle of that point there, right? And then same kind of thing, same kind of idea here. You have this middle, or this high that's like right in the middle of your consolidation point. Now, I don't know where to start this from. Is it from this high that we started to consolidate? One could make the argument there, and in which case we've been consolidating now for 62 days. 62 days versus 64 days over here. You remember 62 days? Maybe it's been 62 days. Maybe we started consolidating from this high. Maybe the move up in itself was something that like just ended right there, and then we started consolidating. I could see that. That makes sense too. In which case we're at 53 days. Okay, and here's my grand kind of theory. I think that we will around, maybe not on, like not exactly like this one. There's more things to compare, but and I'm gonna get back to that in a second. But around the 64th day, given a week, maybe a week before, a week after, but somewhere around there, we're going to break out. We're going to see this move starting, right, where we're breaking out. Not at new all-time highs necessarily, but starting the move up. And it'll be obvious, probably, I mean, we'll probably know that we're seeing that move up. It'll be a little bit more pronounced than anything what we've seen so far. I think it'd be obvious once we're above about 100K again. That's probably when we're really starting this move here. But if it is 53 days and it were to be 64 days that it took us to break out, that 64th day happens to be on the 25th of January. What happens 5 days before that? The inauguration, which would be on the 59th day. That's the 20th, right? The inauguration. What happens the day after the inauguration? MicroStrategy meets together. MicroStrategy, the board, meets together to discuss what they're going to do for 2025 for their Bitcoin stuff, right? That could be bullish news for Bitcoin as well, right? From an institutional perspective. I don't know. There's significant things going on this 59th day from this perspective, or maybe from this perspective, it would be the 68th day, whatever. That's the inauguration, and then significant things as well going on the day after that. So around that 60-day period, whatever, 64-day period, however you want to measure it, it's very close. It would just based on events, it would make sense to break out if the events were bullish. If we had bullish news driving these events whenever they come out, it would make sense from a time perspective based on what we saw before. And then here, you look at your uptrend in the RSI. You got your uptrend, you broke out of it here, and look at that, actually. It is pretty perfect, isn't it? You broke out of it here, and you kept going afterwards. You kept going up afterwards. But here we are, finding a downtrend right now, right? We're in our downtrend now. We didn't go to the oversold zone, but we could. We very well could go down, and that's why I think it is still important to consider that this might not be the low. I think it could be. It meets all the qualifications for it, but it might not be the low. Here's an argument for that, why it might not be the low. If we take the high here to the low, this time we only dropped 17.6%. This is the most mild drop we've seen in the whole bull cycle. Every drop has seen like 20%, 21, 22%, if not more than that, right? The recent consolidation phase we had here, this was a 30-something% drop overall. So 17.6 is quite literally the most tame drop we've seen throughout this whole bull market. That perspective alone would lead me to believe that we could drop even a little bit lower. We really could, something that's around like 20 to 22% overall. I don't think we're going to. I actually personally do think this is a low, but that's just an argument to be made that we could go lower. That and the RSI has not technically hit the oversold zone like it did last time. But you are triple bottoming, finding support on the 40, right? You do look, I mean, here, you've got your lower lows. I would have assumed here, based off of this high, right, coming in with the lower highs, lower lows, I would have assumed this low would have taken you down to the oversold zone, but it didn't. It didn't, did it? All right, similar but kind of different. It's like same, but different. And then here's another thing that's similar with this whole thing. We're at the low point here after breaking below this line that we held support at for. So we had a fake out to mark the low, which is also at some of the lowest points at our RSI. We had a fake out here, right? If you had a line right here, you're holding this support area this whole time. You had a fake out. That was your low. You stayed down there below this line for like 4 days, and then you moved up, and it was nothing but upside after that, right? I mean, we didn't even stay below the line that long, you guys. And this is also why maybe we could go lower. Maybe we could. And if we do go lower, it's nothing to be concerned about. It's actually very comparable to what we saw already. But I do want to measure from a high to, or from a low to a low there. That's only 2% away. Last time we were about 5% away from the line. So it is a little bit more tame of a drop overall, which might mean that maybe it's not a tame drop overall. Maybe it's just as aggressive or just as tame as the last one. It just hasn't happened all the way yet. We have a little bit lower to go. But our current low right now is at 89.2K. The lowest that I would expect us to go personally would be something around 85K. I suppose we could go lower, but it wouldn't really make sense from a price perspective to do that, in my opinion. Like if I was to call for you to find support at 83K or 82K, it would be more likely that you go down to about like 74K, 73K, something like that, right? You break 85K, I'd say it's more likely you find support at 73K, 74K than you would find support at anything else in between. So likely we hold support 85 to 87K if this low itself doesn't hold. Do we go lower? That's the only thing I'm not certain of. I feel like, you know, every time we've hit one of these lows around here, I've been very certain that it was the low. So the fact that I'm not certain of it now tells me it probably is. It probably is the low, and it's probably going to rip from here on out, guys. But maybe not. And when I say maybe not, I don't mean that we're not going to get this rip. I just mean that maybe it doesn't go off to the moon immediately. Maybe what we do is we move up, we consolidate a little bit first, and then toward this inauguration day, toward the 20th, that's when we really start to take off, right? Just like here. Just like back here, when we were below the line, we moved up. We consolidated a little bit. We were moving up overall, basically, but consolidated for like a week, and then we really started to rip, right? So maybe that's what we do. We consolidate for like a week here. Maybe we move up a little bit in that time, consolidate around 100K for a week, and then during the inauguration, we start pumping. I don't know. Or maybe we pump into the inauguration. Anything and everything's possible. It's not. This video is not so much the perspective of are we moving up from here? Are we moving down? Could we go lower? I hope it answers those questions to a certain degree, but I don't know if we're moving up, if we're moving down, right? We could be moving up. We absolutely could take this low out, but even if we do take the low out, I hope that this video has at least illuminated the perspective that we wouldn't go too much lower. It's giving you the tools to be confident to make the decisions that you need to make for yourself in this game, right? I'm not a financial advisor. No, this is financial advice, but I very much am confident, very confident that if that is not the low, it's very near the low. We're coming to an end of it now. And if it's not there, it's going to happen within this next week. Likely by inauguration day, we will have our low, if not already having it there. So, and then likely after inauguration day, going into the end of this month and then going into February, guys, we're going to be excelling in prices, right? And that's I guess where I can end the video right there, right? I can end the video with that, is where do we go after this? Well, this time here, if we take the low to the high, that was your move here, right? I feel like I encompassed that pretty well from the low to the high, right? We take this magical move and we put it right down here at this low. You can see that this low to that high, it's quite literally perfect. Now that high was like your fake out high. Maybe this was the end of your move. It's not the exact same length, but they're still pretty close, right? I think it's a fair assumption. Do you see how it goes right to that high and I just move it directly to the left? I don't even move it down, and it's basically right at that low. I accidentally picked it up even a little bit there, right? It's basically right at that low. It's the same move overall from a technical high to low, but this move also, again, I would say it ended here. Okay, just for perspective. If the move did end here, which I think it did technically, yes, that's the high, but that's a fake out high. I would say the move ended here. This was just a stop hunt, crazy ETF day that we had, right? Not in relation to this up move at all. It's in relation to the consolidation phase. So I would say that the move ended here, which would make this move overall a little bit bigger. Okay, answering the question, what are we going to do when we break out of here? Well, I don't know necessarily, but from a low point here to, I don't know, I don't want to draw it to the high point, but I feel like that's most of the move. It's got to be the move itself, right? It's like I drew it to like that high point there. Maybe I should draw it to the first week, to this high point. Not that high point, but that high point there. So I'll just draw it. I'll draw it from this low point here to that high point there, right? You could argue that this whole thing is the move. I'm not going to do that, right? Because I'd rather be conservative than be surprised. From a low point there, it's even a little bit below that low point, to the high point there, that suggests prices above 136K. And if it's anything like our last move, likely it will be a little bit bigger, which would intend that we would go to 140K or more, right? And also, outside of everything that I've said in this video, it's a simple fact. You can go through and look at it. I'm not going to do it because I want to end the video, damn it. But whenever we get toward the end of the bull markets, which we are getting toward the end. We're in the last year of the bull market. Whether you think it ends in a month, in a day, in a week, it's already ended. If it's already ended, you probably don't think it's going to go up. You should watch my last video that I made, because I think that'll give a perspective maybe as to why I don't think the bull market's over. But I forgot what I was going to say. I got all distracted there, man. Essentially, we're moving up. I forgot. What was I going to say? It felt important. Damn it, I got distracted. I was shilling this video and I got distracted. But whatever, man, whatever. I'm sure I'll watch this and I'll be like, you could have completed the thought there, but hopefully it was something you guys could complete too. I don't know. Talking about moving up to 146K, it could be a little bit stronger. Right, that's what I was going to say, was that at the end of the cycle, you can look it up yourself, at the end of every single cycle, the moves only get stronger, right? The strongest moves are at the end of the cycle, not at the beginning of the cycle, right? The beginning of the cycle has strong moves. The end of the cycle has the strongest moves. So likely, if this move was stronger than this move, likely this move will be weaker than this move. And because these are happening after, the halving, after we break out of that halving high, this was our pre-halving moves, this is our post-halving move, I would assume it could be even bigger. So again, just basing it off of our pre-halving move, we would rightly assume that by the end of this move, likely sometime in February, we would see Bitcoin at about 140,000 or more. And then based off of cyclical analysis and what happens after we break out of our pre-halving high and we're above that, we see larger moves. It would suggest that not only did we see 140K, but we could see a lot higher prices than that. We could see 150, 160, even 175K by the end of February. I don't know what else to say, guys. If you liked the video, hit the like button. Subscribe if you want to see more content like this. Thank you all for being here. I'll see you on the next one. Take care. Bye.